Hi and welcome. My name is Assaf Dahan, Director of Threat Research at Palo Alto Cortex XDR team. Today I have the pleasure of hosting Daniel Frank, a principal researcher at the team. So Daniel, thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having me, Assaf.
So you just published recently a new blog about the Manic Menagerie threat actor. What can you tell us about it?
So we called it Menagerie 2.0. And the blog is about an ongoing campaign of a threat actor that was rarely seen before. And this threat actor targets specifically IT and web hosting companies.
This campaign kind of stayed under the radar for a while, right? So how did you manage to find it?
Well, yeah, so the only time that this threat actor was reported about was back in 2018. The Australian Cybersecurity Center did quite a research about them. And I was able to find them during one of, you can say, regular hunting sessions. You know, as part of our job, we hunt for new threats. There was a suspicious activity that was found on an IIS server, and it immediately caught the eye.
In your research, you mentioned a group called Manic Menagerie. How were you able to attribute this activity that you saw here to the threat actor called Manic Menagerie?
Well, I was able to see some overlaps in the tools that were used. You can even say forensic evidence, and this led me to the conclusion that this is the threat actor that we are talking about.
I'd like to hear more about this Manic Menagerie group. Is it an APT group? Is it nation-state backed? Is it cyber criminal? What's their end game?
Yeah, so they consider to be a cyber criminal group. And it was discussed back in 2018 in Australia, and because they thought maybe it's an APT group, but eventually settled for cybercrime, I think. They first started by deploying coin miners and also conducting search engine optimization. And this is exactly what we saw. We saw several blocked attempts of cryptocurrency mining. And in 2022, we saw a really interesting shift in their operations.
Okay, so from 2018 till 2022, like they kind of had the same MO, doing pretty much the same thing, financially motivated type of attacks, crypto mining, SEO. What happened in 2022 then? Like what caused that shift?
Yeah, well, in between 2018 and 2020, they kind of remained under the radar, you can say. No one else talked about them. And the activity that we saw began in 2020. So then in 2022, as you said, we just saw a shift into, you can say, backdooring at scale. And kind of neglecting their...
What does it mean to backdoor at scale? I mean, so let's say they compromised an IIS server, for instance. What does it look like from the attacker's perspective?
From the attacker's perspective, so they compromised IIS servers, and these IIS servers happen to belong to web hosting companies, because this is what they were after. And we found a unique tool whose sole purpose was to deploy malicious web shells in directories of legitimate websites that were hosted on these IIS servers.
So basically, they took like a normal web page, legitimate web page who belonged to a legitimate company, and then inserted a code there, and that was the backdoor, basically?
Well, yeah, they deployed their own web shells, and it allowed them remote access into these websites, into these environments.
And how do you explain this shift? Like, what was the motivation, like, from going from crypto mining activity to backdooring a whole bunch of websites at scale? What was the rationale?
Yeah, well, so I think they saw that they're kind of failing in just their financial game in the attempted cryptocurrency mining.
What do you mean failing? Like, you mean like they couldn't deploy?
They just couldn't successfully deploy their cryptocurrency miners.
And that's why they kind of switched tactics to trying to backdoor websites.
Yeah, well, you can say that, yeah.
Let's say that they did backdoor a website. What are the risks that it poses for this company or even the web hosting companies?
Once such thing happens, a hosted legitimate website can be served as a command and control server for the attackers. This can lead to false flagging of this website that is unknowingly conducting cybercrime activity or other malicious activity. It can also lead to denial of service, and it basically damages the reputation both of the hosting company and these legitimate websites.
Yeah, because you have like legitimate websites that up until a moment ago were completely okay and legit, and now all of a sudden they may serve as command and control. Right. Also, once they have access to backdoor the website, they can also probably steal information hosted on the maybe servers that host these websites. So there's a lot of risks and direct damage and also collateral damage in terms of reputation and so on. Can you tell us a little bit about how Cortex can protect and prevent such attacks?
Sure. So Cortex XDR detects and prevents these attacks in multiple layers. So we have the behavioral rules, which can track down suspicious activity by malicious files or malicious threat actors. And we also have machine learning-based static rules, which can identify malicious files even before they were executed.
Recently, we launched 2 new modules that I think were very pivotal in your investigation. Can you mention these modules?
So one module is the anti-cryptominer module. It's a module that can detect and prevent execution of crypto miners. And the other module is the anti-webshell module, which can actually detect and, more importantly, prevent execution of malicious activity that is originated in web shells.
So, Daniel, thank you so much for coming here. And just before we're wrapping this up, what would you like our viewers to take with them? What is the most important thing you'd like them to remember?
So actually I have 2 things, I think. So one takeaway would be that threat actors, they constantly keep evolving from this reason or another reason.
I think there's something about the adaptiveness, is like to know that even if they get blocked in one way, they'll find another way to capitalize on the access that they gained.
Yeah, and like in this case, it wasn't like 0-day access. It was just vulnerable IAS servers, vulnerable web applications. So just keep these web applications and IAS servers patched, with the latest security updates.
That's always a good advice. Thank you so much for coming here today. This has been really illuminating. And for our viewers, if you'd like to learn more about the Manic Menagerie campaign and how Cortex XDR can prevent and detect those type of threats, please, we encourage you to visit our blog or click on the link below. Thank you so much.